Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd like to welcome to the committee today Todd Parfit, who is the director of the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality. He lives in Cheyenne. He spent the last 21 years at the Wyoming DEQ and the last 3 years as director. Many mistakenly believe that this rule that is subject to today's hearing will only affect coal production in Appalachia. This is simply not the case. This rule will cost thousands of jobs across the country, including many jobs in Wyoming. So for that reason, I'm very grateful that Todd is here to testify and to share his expertise with the committee. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Barrasso.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Ms. Schneider, I want to follow up on Senator Lee's questions related to the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA. NEPA requires every federal agency to assess the environmental impacts that would result from its actions, like approving the permit or issuing a new regulation. A federal agency assesses environmental impacts in what's known as the Environmental Impact Statement. Prior to issuing an environmental impact statement, a federal agency is required to consult with other agencies, including state agencies, which have special expertise with respect to the action under consideration. Federal agency preparing the environmental impact statement is called the lead agency. The other agencies are called cooperating agencies. Under NEPA, the lead agency is not only required to consult with cooperating agencies, it must ensure that the participation of the cooperating agencies is, quote, meaningful. So when the Office of Surface Mining began developing the so-called stream protection rule, it identified 10 state agencies as cooperating agencies. The office signed agreements with each of these state agencies in which it pledged to provide them with copies of the key or relevant documents underlying the EIS, administrative drafts of the EIS, and a reasonable time for review and return of comprehensive comments. That's what you promised. However, between January of 2011 and the issuance of the proposed rule on July of 2015, the Office of Surface Mining did none of this. For 4.5 years, the Office of Surface Mining shared neither drafts of the EIS nor documents related to the EIS. During this time, it engaged in no meaningful consultation whatsoever with the agencies. It ignored the state's repeated requests for consultation, and in response, 8 of the 10 states, the agencies felt they had no other choice but to withdraw as cooperating agencies. Now you have overseen the Office of Surface Mining since May of 2014. Why is the Office of Surface Mining allowed to make a mockery of its obligation under the National Environmental Policy Act?
Senator, as we've discussed previously, 3 chapters of the administrative draft EIS were distributed to the cooperating agencies. They were put up on a SharePoint for them to access. We did receive very meaningful comments from the states. They were extremely helpful in developing the draft EIS. The draft EIS is now out on the streets. We're looking forward to reviewing the comments from all of the states that have come in on the draft EIS and moving forward with them in a more cooperative and collaborative process. I strongly believe that it's important to engage the states. I personally have worked for 2 states in my career, for the state of Colorado, the state of Florida and the state of Oregon. So I understand the importance of state perspectives, and I will commit to you that we will continue to engage the states as we move forward.
Let's be clear. That sharing was done before January of 2011. I want to know where this law allows your agency to go dark for 4.5 years, and how is this consistent with the President's claim that his administration is the most transparent administration in history?
Senator, there was a lot of information provided to the Office of Surface Mining. They are candidly under-resourced, and they are trying to do the best work that they can. Since 2000, I would note that they have been reduced in terms of FTEs by about 30%. So we are trying to engage as best we can.
Seem like lame excuses to me. I will tell you, I'd like to turn to the Office of Surface Mining Draft Regulatory Impact Analysis, or the RIA. The Regulatory Impact Analysis estimates the cost of a rule or an industry, as well as the federal government and the states. Office of Surface Mining estimates that the total annual cost of the proposed stream rule to the states within the entire Rocky Mountain region is $29,000. Now, Mr. Parfit's testified On its face, he says the figure is laughable. He says the state of Wyoming spent more than that to simply read and analyze the proposed rule and associated documents, an effort that's not even remotely close to being finished. He goes on to say that the Office of Surface Mining grossly underestimates the impact of the proposed rule on Wyoming and federal tax revenue by more than $1.3 million a year. So wouldn't you agree that the Office of Surface Mining's annual cost estimate of $29,000 for the entire Rocky Mountain region is on its face ridiculous?
Senator, no, I would not. We have used a set of highly qualified experts to develop our regulatory impact analysis. They've put together, I think, a very robust analysis of what the costs and estimates are going to be. Administrative costs, for example, are estimated at 1 cent per ton of coal mined on average. The analysis was peer-reviewed by PhDs from a host of different...
PhDs who have no practical experience in what's going on. Mr. Parfit, I'd like you to respond to that.
Yes, so the $29,000 for the entire western region, we, as you mentioned, thought was unrealistic. We did our own assessment just for Wyoming and estimated that it would cost $550,000 a year just for Wyoming alone to implement that rule. The other key factor is that in terms of the lost tax revenue to the state and to the federal government, it was estimated at $360,000 a year. But that did not take into account mineral royalties that are paid to the state of Wyoming and also the royalties that are paid to the federal government. So there would be an additional cost of $291,000 to the federal government. Also, there would be additional costs to the AML program and to the black lung fee.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.